Hey guys, it's Venia here in the lounge, the spiritual lounge. Today is Saturday, the 27th. Um, a few days have gone by since I posted a video, and that's because I'm still handling issues with my deceased relative. And every time you think you just get one thing done, there's just more things to do. And I'm just, trying to handle them day by day, best I can, while keeping track of what's going on in the world, and just trying to live life, right? I've got a little bit different view here today, and mainly because I kind of wanted to show you guys this lovely picture that I acquired years ago of a young girl and I guess her beau or whoever. She's playing the flute, and the flute is one of those beautiful, magical sounds. Um, and I just love that picture that's always been there, and it will always, I will keep that forever. I just love it. I love the colors, but I just love the peace and serenity that it makes. And I also changed up another one of a portal that is in the forest. I hope you guys can see that pretty good. But anyway, I hope everybody's doing okay. A couple of you were like, yo, where are you? Like, there's stuff going on. And yes, there's stuff going on, guys, but we have to remember we are observing. We're not absorbing every single thing, okay? There's going to be so much stuff that happens. There's stuff that's constantly happening. Um, that's the chaotic energies of this world, right? And remember, not everything is supposed to affect us, okay? Not everything will really touch our lives directly. And so, even those things that don't touch your lives directly, some of you, I notice, reach out and make them touch your life directly. Some things are happening for reasons that we will never fathom, will never understand. Um, they are to get that balance and flow with other people, other things that are going on, right? Not to say that you're supposed to bury your head in the sand. Absolutely not. No. However, a lot of stuff that's going to happen is not for you. And it is not part of your karma. It is not not meant to be a part of your life. Okay? So, unless you are deeply drawn to something, um, or unless it directly affects your life, observe, do what you can, but don't absorb it. Okay? Um, this world is a world of chaotic energy. And by chaotic, it's because the harmonic flow, right, of the universe, okay, we can't readily see. And it's designed that way because there's many different things that need to go on in this particular world. There's energy that must be balanced. There's karma that must be paid. There's karma that must be balanced, right? There are things that need to awaken people. There's energies that need to cause growth in people, okay? So, with all that going on, right? We cannot be involved in every single matter, every single thing that is going on. We must deal with our own inner self, our own growth, okay? And what affects us peripherally. peripherally, meaning in our sphere, in our life sphere, circle. Okay? We all have our own circle of life going on, right? And so, yes, there's some things that are going to affect us deeply that we see. There's some things that are going to be troubling, some things that are very concerning. However, we are not meant to be involved in all of that. Okay? The best that we can do, the absolute best that we can do, is continue on with our own growth in our own way, right? And if that growth spurs you to help those that you see suffering, then by all means do that. If that inner prompting spurs you to send love out to others or to a situation, by all means, please do that. Okay? But you have to keep your center of who you are intact. Okay? And you do that, right? By constantly coming from within your understanding, what you understand so far. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit as far as um, an understanding of not only who we are, but on forgiveness, on keeping things within our own growth circle. But let's talk about some little bit of news here. Um, the Democrat won the Arizona special election. Adelita Grijalva. Sorry if I'm butchering her name. It was a blowout. She won. Mike Johnson is said that he's not swearing her in. I just see that's just going to change. Um, at some point, she'll be sworn in. Okay, so that didn't even really concern me when I heard that there was no type thing. So I know that at some point she will be in and things will move on. Um, Hundreds of employees were sent a notice, and I've told you guys from the beginning of this nightmare, back in like February, most, if not all, but most of the people that this administration let go will somehow be coming back in some way or the other. And we've seen that over and over again. It turns out you just can't fire people just because it looks good on paper, and then you're left with incompetence, um, vacuums, right? And this administration found out, unfortunately, for those people that had to go through the experience of being let go and then wondering where their money's coming from, and then, hey, could you come back? And I, it's been nice to hear that a lot of people have refused to come back to certain positions. Um, that was not on my bingo card. I did not expect that, and I love that because that means that they found opportunities elsewhere or better situations elsewhere, or they just don't want to come back. Good for them. But anyway, hundreds more were offered the opportunity to return to work. The GSA is scrambling. The Government Services Administration is scrambling to get these people back in key positions. And it's just like I almost get tired of even posting about that, because every other video I make is me telling you guys, yeah, thousands were asked to return back to work in this branch. Thousands were asked to come back in this department, and it's like all just to say, hey, we did this, which was a complete failure. Anyway, Iowa, the governor of Iowa has been very surprising. Remember, they just elected overwhelmingly a Democrat for one of their state house positions. But the governor refused to fly the flags at half mast for Charlie Kirk. Good for him. Good for him. Um, why it should have been flown at half mast is just a mystery to me. But, you know, these people are not, this whole CK thing, you know, it's, we are going to eventually find out everything that was involved with this thing. It's certainly not what they've propped it up to be. And we all know that in our gut, okay? There's a reason why they needed to prop him up as they're doing after his demise, okay? Um, and it's not only as a distraction for the files, okay? There's just another. They need to put emphasis on certain things to have you going after those other things while they do things this way. But fortunately, other than the MAGA group, no one's being fooled by it. Okay, um, now it's like the attention is now on trans people, and it's so interesting. So they tried to frame the trans people for the shooting, but then Don the Con was on TV yesterday, and he blamed something else that was totally irrelevant on trans people. So it's like, you pesky trans people, like, you guys are just like responsible for all the ills of the world, you know what I mean? And if it like wasn't for you guys, um this world just wouldn't be as bad as it is, right? I mean, certainly trans people were involved in like the Ukraine Russia war. That was definitely trans. And um the whole Israel Iran thing, that was trans. I mean, really. And then, just any of the violence that happens, or the crimes committed, or I mean, it's just trans. I wish I could like was a rapper, because I would make like a song, you know you trans. Somebody help me with the lyrics here, right? But anyway, sadly, that's I was majorly joking, but sadly, like, that's where they want your attention to go, right? Okay, so it's sort of like, the person who's literally robbing you blind pointing at the other guy saying they did it, you know? So, anyway, none of us are fooled by that crap. Um, Here in this community, okay, um, we have a love for everybody, okay? And we know that our trans people are the least of our worries. Okay, we'll just put it that way, the absolute least of our worries in this world, in this country, in society, period. Okay. I'm sick of that trans nonsense, and any decent human being should be sick of it too. Okay. I mean, um, and then it was the guy who uh, shot up in, was it Minneapolis? Wherever we just had the latest shooting where two were unfortunately killed and about six or seven others were injured. The first thing that you heard was trans. It was a trans person. Turns out he wasn't. Okay. Like, really? Come on. Like, really? Like, let's dig in deep and find that decency that is there, but you guys are certainly masking it well, MAGA. You're masking it well. Okay? You're hiding that shred of decency quite well. And if I sound like I'm pissed, I am a little pissed because I'm sick of the nonsense. I really am. However, however, I also understand that people are at certain levels, okay, of understanding, and they are basically blocking. They're not living from within, okay, um, and that is what happens when you don't come from a place within. All right, you come from a place of wherever your focus happens to lie, to land. All right. That is why I said in the beginning, it is very important to not only come from within, okay, but do not be so readily looking to the outward world in living your day to day life. Okay? Um, James Comey. That's something I want to talk about for a minute. And because this is a wonderful thing that is happening in the sense of here's a guy who basically kind of schmoozed up to Trump, um, cost helped to cause Hillary the election, okay, because of his actions. He was responsible. And in schmoozing up to Trump, and what happens, as with all the people who have supported Trump, done his bidding, darn near every last one of them faces some type of karma return for their actions, okay? The people around Trump that have supported him, you think of like Giuliani and a bunch of other people, right? They've all met some type of not good um, actions in their lives, in their professions, personally, etc. These are people that basically kind of sold their soul. They acted without integrity. James Comey was one of them. Now he's being unfairly, to us, targeted now, okay, for some BS nonsense, right? But not for the real thing that he did back years ago, right? But as is always the case, and I've told you guys ad nauseum, Don the Con is a test of integrity. People that support him, that sacrifice their integrity for him, okay, will face the karma of their actions and will face that karma in some form or another, where we can witness it. And it's purely because of their actions, okay? So Comey is basically getting uh, the actions, the result of his actions. Okay, it just took a little while. All right. Um, However, he will at some point. I see he has big secrets on this administration, and I see him using those secrets. Some of them actually involve the files, but there's other things that he knows. And I see him basically, he's holding the ace card. Okay? He's holding the ace card and he will use it and this will go away for him. However, the karma is him having to actually go through this process. Okay? Him having to go through it. But there is a certain type of energy that involves Don the Khan and his circle of people that support him. And it's a huge test. And not only a test for his inner circle, but for those who branch out, the MAGA supporters, etc. Okay? Um, and we just see that over and over again. All right? Um, Pam Bondi is one of those. She will be eventually, um, not now, but at some point she will face exactly what she is now doing to people. She will face, um, she will have interesting times ahead. That's what I see for her. Okay? Um, so, further proof that yes, everyone pays for their actions. Um, that energy that they're expending, it does come around eventually. It's not up to us to determine when or how. Okay, so that's kind of all I wanted to talk about as far as that goes. Someone has asked me, what do I see on the Election Truth Alliance? Um, Definitely more and more will come out, um, to the point where they will know exactly how the election was handled and what was done. However, it will not result in an overturning like people think. And that I've seen for a while now. It will not be a legal overturning in the courts. However, you also have to realize, too, there, I have told you guys, I do see a massive type of uprising from this country. There will be a trigger point, and it just will trigger a huge uprising. So, although the information will come out, and it will not make it through the actual court system successfully, there's other ways in which things can happen. Um, and this country will face an uprising, and it will get violent. Um, and let's just say that it will definitely have a lot to do with the midterms of next year. Um, we will get to a point where we're not going to take any more. Okay, we're just not going to take any more. we will get to that point. And a lot of people I know are saying, "Well, damn it, why aren't we at that point yet?" But we're just not there yet. It's a process. It's a process. But in the meantime, we're focusing on ourselves. Okay? Now, someone asked, will there be a race war? No. Um, this administration will not be able to trigger those type of feelings in the black race that they are thinking or they're trying to provoke, the black or the brown race. It won't. It's sort of like um, the anger is there, but it's not, they can't trigger it. They're ineffective when it comes to triggering the anger. And we don't want, which is a good thing because we don't want that race war. And mainly because um, that would give this administration sort of like the green light to just go ahead and do what they want to do, you know? Um, they've already tried implementing the Antifa is illegal terrorist organization, labeling it as a terrorist organization, right? That was just done by executive order this week, which is hilarious because Antifa is just strictly anti fascism, right? And so basically, they're calling themselves fascists because they're saying that if you are anti fascist, then you're a terrorist organization. Did they think that through or no? Maybe not. I don't know. I don't think so. But anyway, um, which they think, is just, you know, it's just not going to work. There's so much of what they've tried and they're going to try to do that's just not going to work and hasn't worked. This is not the time for that now. The energies are not there for that now. Okay, so, all right. Something I wanted to focus on because this is a major issue, and a lot of people talk about, it's hard to forgive myself for certain things I've done, and forgiving yourself can be an issue um, if you're unable to resolve certain things within yourselves. So, for those of you that have read my books, you already know this, but for those that didn't, I'll just say this. At the very, what I call just about the end of my near death experience, and when I was conversing with um, my escort, my spiritual escort, and I sort of was asking them certain things, and one of the things that I asked them was, how do I live? Like because in my thinking, after seeing all this, I wanted to be perfect, and I wanted to do everything just right, and you know, that of course hasn't happened, right? And won't. Um, but um, the responses to me were simple yet profound. And at my age and understanding now, I understand how profound it was when I was told just live and that I would make mistakes. Okay? They already knew I would make mistakes, but that basically, even within those mistakes, the energy of those mistakes, the energy of what was out there for me to understand, would eventually merge into the right energy for the right understanding that I needed and for the right set of circumstances that I needed to fulfill and continue this life, right? And so, um, in subsequent like spiritual interactions that I've had um, with the other side and with helpers, um, they understand that we are faced with some harsh, dense energies here. Okay, they understand that, and they are far more loving and understanding of us than we actually are to ourselves. Okay. Um, there are a lot of actions that we do because our level of understanding is just not there. And so we're going to make those kind of mistakes because we don't understand at that moment that we shouldn't. And then there's those intentional things that we do that even though we know they're wrong, we still do them anyway, right? Um, on like a milder scale, it's like, I'm going to drink a lot tonight. I know I'm going to be hungover tomorrow, but I'm going to do it anyway, type thing. And then there's more serious things that we do, you know, um, and those are another form of type of mistakes, right, that we make. Um, but forgiving yourself for those type of things, you must start at accepting that you've done them. Okay? You've got to start there. You've got to accept the scope of what you've done. And it's painful to do that. It is very painful to accept not only that you've done something wrong, but the scope of the actions of how it branched out into other things possibly that were wrong also. That's kind of difficult, right? It's very difficult. However, when you do that, you get to a level of understanding and compassion towards yourself. You're not in condonement. You're not condoning what you did. Okay? But you are accepting that it was done. And now you must turn that compassion towards yourself and those actions. And one way to do that is, okay, fundamentally changing whatever that aspect was that caused you to make that mistake. You've got to change and be willing to change that aspect of you. But in order to make that change, okay, and be willing to make that change within yourself, you've got to want that to change. Okay? If you do something that you just find it so hard to live with, okay? Always remember that the fact that you can accept that you did it, the fact that you can accept that it does not align with actually who you want to be, that right there is forgiveness. That right there is love towards yourself. That right there is allowing divine love to come in and fill that forgiveness gap for you, which it will, and help you to make that change from within. So the willingness to want to change, okay, and the desire to want to change, right there is forgiveness. Right there and then, you have forgiven yourself. Allow yourself to do that. And in that way, divine love will spur you into how to correct that behavior. Divine love will fill in all those gaps for you if you allow it. But you've got to do that initial work. But it will come in sort of like water. You see a dry patch of desert, right? And from somewhere, water comes in and starts filling in, and it just fills in more and more of it until you've got some fertile ground. That's what you're basically doing. Your true inner desire to change that aspect of yourself, to want to change that aspect of yourself, opens that door and lets love come in and help you with it. We are going to make mistakes. We're just going to. On this plane, it's a given. It's just a given. But the very first thing, like I said, we have to do is acknowledge the mistake, acknowledge that we've done it, accept that, and then from then on, the desire to not do that again, to change whatever that aspect is that caused you to do something that way. You're more than halfway to forgiving yourself. And not only forgiving yourself, but moving on from it and not being saddled by that guilt. I know, one of the beautiful things about seeing things through a spiritual perspective is looking at that bigger, broader picture, right? That bigger picture. You're seeing through a lens, more and more through the lens of love, right? And when you see more and more through a lens of love, things don't look so good or bad, black or white. Seeing the whole picture of things um, can be a truly beautiful type vision. And that is what seeing through the eyes of love often means. Okay? Allowing love to determine your view instead of you just seeing things as you believe through your limited viewpoint or my limited viewpoint, right? And so in the beginning, right, when I was talking about seeing all these different things going on out here, right? And, going into panic mode. And some of those things aren't even going to affect you or me or our people or whatever directly. Our family, and when I say our people, that's what I mean, our family, our friends, our loved ones affect us directly. Right? We are all here for our own specific spiritual path and growth. All of us. Some things are not supposed to affect us. Some things are supposed to affect us. We cannot carry the world because the world has its own individual agendas going on. And that's one of the things that I grasped early on from my NDE, and why I've never been, and I can kind of pat myself on the back for this, I've never looked at anyone and felt a jealousy towards what they had or how they looked or what they've accomplished. And the reason is because they're on their own spiritual individual path. They came here with a certain agenda. I came here with a certain agenda. No two agendas are going to be alike. Even twins, they're going to live their different paths. Triplets, quadruplets, they still have their own path of what they came here to do. Okay, so I'm going to end it there. I know I've gotten a little heavy this week, um, or this video, but that was just kind of what I was led to talk about and put out there. So I'm going to leave it out there. All right. Um, and to all of those, I always want to acknowledge, um, most of you leave such supportive, loving comments that just kind of keep blowing me away. Every video I do, you know, um, a friend of mine had remarked to me. She's like, because she watches some of my videos, not all the time, but she watches some. She's like, I was going through your comments on some of these videos. She's like, if I didn't know any better, I'd swear you were paying people to say this stuff. And it's the truth. Like, some of you guys are, like, you just, even if it's like, thank you, there's such energy behind that. Like, I have felt like a lot of people just sometimes just say thank you, and you can just feel like, whoa, they're meaning that. So anyway, all that love never gets wasted. It just goes on. It really does. It goes on and out. So take care, guys. Should be back soon. And thank you for checking in.